Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and it's time once again for another review of a G1 Transformer. And today we're going to be taking a look at a longtime fan favorite for Transformer fans, the original 1984 Autobot Special Operations Agent, Jazz. Now, Jazz here was released in 1984 as part of the first wave of the Transformer toys. He would also be available in 1985. He would be discontinued in 1986, and we would not get a replacement for him. However, in 1989, due to his popularity, Jazz would return to the toy shelves as a legend character, as well as a pretender. And then in 1990, Jazz would return again as an action master on a skateboard. Sort of fitting for Jazz, isn't it, folks? Jazz is a popular figure for Generation 1 Transformer fans, mainly due to his portrayal in the 1980s animated cartoon. He was voiced by veteran actor Scatman Crothers, who all gave Jazz a unique persona that was always hip and down with Earth's music scene, but always was able to play things cool. So in a lot of cases, he was the cool cat for the Autobots, and he clicked with viewers instantly. However, shortly after wrapping up work on the 1986 Transformers the movie, Scatman passed away and left the Sunbow Animation in a bit of a pickle, as they did not want to get rid of the beloved character. And the original intent to kill Jazz off was taken away with how parental reaction came back onto Hasbro for the way they handled the removal of many of the characters in the animated movie, especially fan favorite Autobot leader Optimus Prime. So, instead, the scripts were rewritten to remove Jazz's speaking roles and retune them to be said by somebody else. Episodes that had been animated kind of left Jazz more in the crowd scenes of other Autobots to indicate that he was still a part of the team. But by about halfway through the season, Jazz stopped appearing in the background scenes to disappear forever, which was a sad thing for many of us fans to see the character disappear, but he was treated with a lot more respect than how he has been portrayed in the Michael Bay Transformer movies, especially his only appearance in the first movie done in 2007, where Jazz was treated mainly as the token black character. From the way he acted, to the way he talked, even to the needless and rather pointless means of having him killed off right near the end of the film. Anyways, let's take a look at the original Jazz. Let's bring him up close. This is kind of a well-worn and loose sample, folks. I do apologize for that. As for articulation, Jazz is pretty limited, and about on par with many of the other Autobot cars he was sold alongside. He has some articulation at the shoulder, so he can wave his arms out to the sides, and there is articulation at the elbow. There is also some articulation at the wrist. It does allow it to rotate all the way around. Let's see, does the other fist do it a little better? See, that thing pops off a little bit. Yeah, it does. It does go all the way around. So you do have some posability options with Jazz. Let's get this mounted back in. Well, then again, we're about to transform him, so off to the side and take out the gun. Alright. Since Jazz wants to fight with us a little bit here, that ain't cool, buddy. We will go ahead and transform him. Now, we'll warn you fans out there, Jazz is one of those delicate figures like Blue Streak, Prowl, and Smokescreen in the fact of this section right here, this windshield piece. As you can see right here, this is all plastic, so it is very fragile and it does break relatively easy. So always handle those four guys, and especially Jazz here, with some care. But of course, also in the case of Jazz, especially on this model here, the windshield does pop off from the back of his head very, very easily. So that's something to keep in mind, folks. We'll put it back on here in a second. We're going to get started with transforming him. First thing that you will do, keep your head up. Keep your head up there, buddy. Is that you start by folding the feet together and lowering it down just like that, keeping the metal feet parallel. It's going to flop loose here for a moment. Then next, we're going to take his head, and we fold it down inside the hood, face first. Probably look better once we put this back on here. Jink. Yep, there you go. That way you can see it like that. Now, down here underneath him, you're going to raise the hood up a bit and shift this metal portion of the body back. Shift it back just like that. The grooves up here in it, see those grooves? They line up with the rods that are surrounding the hood, so it should raise it up just like that, and you just gently work them back down to form the front of the car. You gotta be gentle with this, folks. Die-cast metal and plastic, after all these years, does tend to stick a little. So sometimes you gotta work with it. There we go, we got it down. Or at least we had it down. Stretch it out. There we go, there we go. That's how it's supposed to look. Get his legs back down. And we gently keep the doors open now for a moment as we push the two car halves together, like so. You rest the roof of the car on top. You'll close the doors. As you'll see, the doors here have a little post protruding out. They go into this little hole here. You probably can barely see it in the camera. There it is. So at least he's got an improvement over Blue Streak and Prowl and whatnot in the fact that the doors will at least stay closed. And then finally, you'll rotate the arms so the tires are pointing just like that, and fold the front fenders down, and then shift them inward, like so. Then underneath, you'll bend the arms at the elbows and fold the hands up underneath. Now, of course, if you really want to, you can try to rotate the hands so they connect to these posts that are right here at the top of the shoulder. It's not easy to see that in the camera since they're both black in color. But you can use that to lock the hands in if you wish. Purely optional, of course. If you got one that's holding his arms down under pretty good like this one is, shouldn't be a problem. And then you have Jazz's alternate mode, a racing car. Specifically, Jazz is a 1981 Porsche 959 Turbo. It's the version used by Martini Racing. Even though they do have a spelling error on it, as you can see, there are two I's on the end. That's an intentional error on Hasbro's part. And Takara's as well, to avoid having to pay licensing fees. Now, There is a variation of Jazz in this mode that has all the Martini labels are gone. They're not present. There's different door stickers here that take away the Martini. There's none here on the windshield or on the spoiler. Now, if you happen to have that version, that one is a mail-away exclusive that was made out in 1985 for kids who ate Cookie Crisp cereal. You could save up your barcodes and send them in a little money to someplace, and you'd get Jazz mailed to your home. You got a special edition Jazz. That's the only difference between the retail version here and the mail-away, is there are no Martini Porsche labels on him. But of course, Jazz is also a product of his own time, at least in this toy mode, because in the recent years, the Porsche Automotive Company has stated that they will no longer allow their vehicles to be licensed to be used in violent works. They were specifically citing it for the Transformers, especially as many of the automobile companies are jumping to have their products shown in the live-action movies. But as they have long been aware of this character in particular, and of course his most famous alternate mode, and they have decided they no longer wish to be a part of it. So this version of Jazz is a relic from a bygone era. Now at this time, let's take a look at Jazz's accessories, starting with the largest one, what the instructions refer to as his rocket launcher, but in reality it is supposed to be a shoulder-mounted flamethrower, according to most of the log, probably to differentiate it, because just about every Autobot car in 1984 and quite a few of them in I think all of them in 1985 also came with a rocket launcher. Very strange. But this one's unique in the fact that while it's shoulder mounted, it actually clips on with this piece back here, these parts back here, it clips on behind his head. So it's a rather unique and novel approach to it. It's certainly different than many of the ones that many of his comrades had, where they just clipped onto the shoulder. And I kind of like this one better. I mean, it falls off pretty easily on him, but ones like the one that came from the earlier reviewed Mirage, or the ones that are on Sideswipe or Red Alert, they are prone to breakage easily due to how the plastic is on it. So this is a nice change. Something else to be aware of is that, as usual, due to the toy laws in the 1980s, the launcher is neutered. But it's kind of, even this one, I don't know if this is true for all samples of them or if it's just on mine here, but you can see the launcher release mechanism is very loose, and it does sink inside the toy pretty far, so it's kind of almost useless except to just hold the missiles in, which is about all it does anyway, but it means you got to hold it up if you want to load it. So just drop it on the table then. Moving right along, we next have Jazz's gun, as the instructions refer to it, his photon rifle. It's nice and chrome and shiny, about what you would expect for Jazz. It's a nice sci-fi looking gun, so I kind of like it. Nothing really much to differentiate it, save for the circular section back here. And of course, as you can see, you have three rather distinct looking rockets. As you can see, it's kind of all plain on the one side, but then back here on the original side, that I had up. You have this grooved section right here in the middle. So his missiles are quite unique among the other Transformers that came with missiles. And they do roll across the table there pretty easily, folks. Now we'll take a quick peek at Jazz's instruction manual here. As you can see, this is the style done in 1984. They were done all in color. Move it over here. This gives the listing of everything that he had, that he came with. Plus also, this label sheet that you see here, this is the original Takara Car Robots label sheet. So that's why it doesn't have any Autobot symbols on any of it. And then now we go into the process of transforming Jazz. He was quite a complicated character to change back in 1984. And of course, lastly here, you applied the labels, and Jazz is now ready to battle the evil Decepticons. Then we move back here. It gives the instructions on saving the robot points and how to read the tech specs. Proving this was an 84 printed instruction, but this is an 85 issued Jazz due to the rub sign being right here, just above, about where the headlight would be. And now, of course, speaking of the tech spec, here's Jazz's tech spec. It's done in red to indicate that he is an Autobot, and this is the same picture that you saw in the instruction manual. It would have been on the front of the box. It gives his name as Jazz, and his function is Special Operations Agent. And his motto is, do it with style or don't bother doing it. Jazz loves Earth culture, always looking to learn more. His knowledge of Earth makes him the indispensable right-hand man to Optimus Prime. Takes most dangerous missions. Very cool, very stylish, very competent. Equipped with photon rifle, flamethrower, full spectrum beacon, 180 decibel stereo speakers. Creates dazzling, disorienting sound and light shows. Versatile, clever, daring, but prone to be distracted. Of course, this here at the end should have been being distracted for correct grammar, but, well, you know how that goes, folks. Alright, we lay upon the grid. We got the decoder here. Let's take a look at Jazz's stats. It gives his strength here as 5. His intelligence is 9. His speed and endurance are 7. His rank is 8. His courage is 9. His firepower is 5. And his skill is a perfect 10. So while Jazz may be a little weak on strength and firepower, he more than makes up for it with everything else. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of him? Jazz has always been a fan favorite for Transformer fans, and I'll admit I'm one of them as well. We always knew when Jazz appeared on the scene, things were always going to be cool, no matter what. He was cool and competent in battle, and even in between battles. Known to break out and dance anytime Blaster started pumping out music. Or even in one episode, to conserve his own energy, used a tractor beam behind Ironhide and was practically being towed along in the rain. It's a pity you didn't see if Ironhide tried to beat the crap out of him for it. But Jazz was always a beloved character. The toy, it's not too bad. It could certainly be better built, to say the least, but that's a little harsh to judge on a toy that obviously was very well played with by its previous owner, because this one was not mine. I never had Jazz as a child. Always wanted him, but never could get him. Mom and Dad wouldn't spend that kind of money. But looking at him as an adult collector, yes, there are flaws with the toy. There are flaws with many of the original Generation 1 Transformers, especially those that came out in 1984. They were copied over from the designs used in Japan, and they had very little modifications done to them to make them last, such as the easily broken windshields. All it was done was to take away the springs so that his missiles wouldn't fire. But even without that, Jazz wouldn't need it. He has a great written tech spec. His stats are pretty well first rate. And he's definitely the toy every Transformer fan wanted. Jazz definitely gets into the top tier. He's still fondly remembered by many of the fans, and we all got to enjoy a new take on Jazz when he was brought into the live-action movies. Unfortunately, Michael Bay let him get killed, but let's not think about that. Let's focus more on the positive. The good stuff that we got out of having this toy back then, or even the feelings of nostalgia that many of you will get just finding this toy. The only thing you've got to really watch for is you also got to watch for all this white paint that he has on him, as it is prone to yellowing over time. This one's kind of partially yellowed, but I think I can forgive that. Now, if only I could find some brand new stickers to replace his. Top tier. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 1984 Autobot Special Operations Agent Jazz. If you liked the video, thumbs up it down here at YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down there if you haven't done so already. And please do like this video and share comments down below. Give me your thoughts on Jazz. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.